Hello, everybody. I'm so excited. Today we have with us Miss Tamika Auwai from Orisha Creative. She is a content marketing strategist. She is the founder of Orisha Creative. She is honestly the goddess and the heart behind a lot of our content and a lot of our messaging that we've been putting out here in the world of body mind coaching. And today we're going to be talking about, I think, an unexpected way that heart centered holistic practitioners get to love and nurture their clients through marketing.
Yes.
So, yay!
Hey. Hello, everybody. I'm excited to be here. The body mind community is one of my favorite communities. We go way back. Before we went live here, Laura and I were just talking about when we can hang out again in person because we've had the pleasure of doing that. And I'm just beyond all that. I'm just such a forever fan of the way that body mind prioritizes healing and transformation from the inside out, right? From the way that it actually is most supportive for people, right? And so, just a forever fan, you know that.
And yes, but it goes both ways. Absolutely both ways. And that kind of brings me to when I met you and why we're having this conversation today is because I met you. I mean, it's been years, but I remember when I first met you and you were talking about this idea of like nurture content and supporting people in the messages that you put out there. And I remember at the time, body mind we were still growing. We were still in this like very, I don't know, we were in an interesting phase. And I remember personally that I was on what felt like this content roller coaster. Like here I was, I love what I do. I love helping my clients. I love nurturing folks who are in my business. Like that has always felt so good to me, especially coming from, with a background in massage. Like I just want to help people. But there was always this disconnect for me of like, oh, but how do I like selling my stuff and selling my programs and selling my services? There always felt like this like yuck factor. And that's really where we met and connected, because I think so much of what you do is you help the coaches, you help the people here who have missions and messages and are here to do good things in the world. You help them bring, I think, that nurturing energy into their marketing. And I think that's such an amazing quality that doesn't always feel like it's there.
Thanks. Yeah. And I think the big piece of it is really remembering like that nurture isn't about just creating and just giving, which I know for so many heart-centered business owners, coaches, mentors, teachers, that sort of thing. It's when they think about nurturing, it comes from this deep desire to give and often this like selfless, potentially martyrdom place of let me give everything. Let me give all my tips and tricks and how to and freebies and let me give all these things. And we're doing it from a place of like nurturing, but you're right. There becomes this sort of gap where it's like we nurture and realize, ooh, we are in business and we do want to have new clients and we do want to make sales, but going from that place of giving all the things to actually making the ask feels like a giant sort of leap and feels really gross and salesy and out of integrity. And of course, I know there are a million beautiful, supportive ways that within the body mind space, body mind sales and everything else, like there's a way to close that gap for sure. But I think the biggest challenge that I see for so many heart-centered coaches is that the lens of nurture is about give, without really recognizing that lens of give actually doesn't empower your potential clients to raise their hand. Never mind like how you feel about selling. The nurture that a lot of heart-centered businesses or owners think is going to have someone, notice them and raise their hand to start working with them, it actually isn't doing that. It's
Mm.
not doing that. It's leaving them out there, often kind of feeling like, oh, if I just collect enough of this coach's tips and tricks and freebies and free trainings, that I don't need any help. I can just collect all these things and I'm going to be good to go. So do you see what I'm saying here? We got this real disconnect, right? We've got your potential clients on one hand feeling like, oh, she gives, they give free tips and tricks all the time. Amazing. I'll just collect them all. And you, coach, are feeling like, oh, if I just give more tips and tricks, then they'll reach out. But we're going in two different directions. They're off thinking if I just collect enough tips and tricks, I'll get the problem solved. You're thinking, I better just give them more tips and tricks, because then they'll reach out. And so we're completely divergent. And this is the place where the content roller coaster, we call it like the content creation treadmill, kind of shows up, because you're off trying to think every single day, like, what can I give? What can I give? What can I give? And it comes from such a heart-centered place, but it's not actually serving your business, and it's not actually serving, your potential clients in the way that you hoped.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally. And I'm going to have to make a note to do a whole other live talking about that, because that pattern also shows up, I think, a lot of times in sessions with a lot of holistic practitioners, where they're doing this thing of like, let me give you all the things to fix you. Meanwhile, the real thing that you need to actually support you in your journey is for you to choose, for you to raise your hand, like you said, for you to take the step, for you to make the investment, for you to take the step forward. So how would you define nurture content? Like, what does that mean in the world of Orisha?
Yeah. So in the world of Orisha, like, the lens is absolutely a little more, it's not super different. We're still coming from this place of the desire to serve and the desire to help more people and the desire to give. But the lens is remembering that, from a business perspective, and from a perspective of like, how do I truly help someone? You truly help someone when you create the space and you give them what they need to see, feel, hear, know, and understand to step in and work with you. And so nurture in our books then isn't about giving them, tips and tricks and all these pieces so that they can kind of figure out how to do it on their own, but rather it's about identifying the messages that are going to help move them along their buyer's journey, that are going to help them. I kind of lean in every time I say this, and I kind of call it kind of the lean in factor, but it's about identifying, like, what does my ideal person need to receive in order to get closer to that space where they'll book a call, or they'll, whatever your next step is in terms of helping to figure out, like, are we a match to work together? But what messages, like, it's not more freebies, right? It's not more things that have me thinking, ooh, like, I client can go figure this out on my own, but rather, what do they need to hear to sort of realize that they can't actually solve this on their own? And it may not be with you. You may not be the right person. We can't be attached to that. But how do we help them arrive at the clarity that they need some help? They need to step into something to be helped, to be supported through their transformation. And that, for me, like, when we're talking about how to come from a place of service, that is the highest form of service that you can offer as a business owner, as a heart-centered business owner, right? The highest form of service.
Yes. And I think this is something, in Body Mind Sales, we talk about the power of choice. And so this is a through line that a lot of times people will stay in habits and patterns and do the same thing over and over again. And internet marketing has kind of turned into this like freebie. Let me go figure it all out by myself. So what you're saying is, like, the way to actually love and nurture and support people is to help them find clarity so that they can make empowered choice.
Absolutely.
And when they make that empowered choice, and you are the one who has been here helping them have these awarenesses, they naturally want to step forward and work with you and connect with you.
Exactly. And that said, the beautiful body mind way, the way that I might say it, is when you can help someone see their problem more clearly than they ever could understand or articulate it themselves. And when you can present to them a new perspective that has them look at, why they've not been able to solve this problem on their own, that for me is true authority. That for me is the place where that choice starts to get sparked, right? You've given them that new vantage point, and ultimately they then see, oh, like, this person gets me. They get me. They get my problem. If I really want to change things, like, I owe it to myself to at least have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
I owe it to myself to at least stop trying to fix it on my own and speak to someone. If it's not them, ideally it's it, and often it is you, because often, you know, when you start to adopt sort of the approach to identifying these messages, like we do at Orisha, you become often the only one, or one of the few, that are talking about the problem this way, right? Everyone else is out there giving tips and tricks and everything else, and you're doing things, you're showing up in a really differentiated way. So you often do become that person who, like, yeah, they want to pick up the phone and they want to have that conversation, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I do want to talk about something else. This is
Yeah.
amazing. I want to talk about, I think, you know, this was my experience until I met you. And I think this is a lot of other folks' experience. There's often this feeling that once you know, have a business and you have social media and email and stuff like that, there's constantly this like, I have to always be producing content. And you totally changed my mindset on that. So can you talk a little bit about maybe like what's the myth and what else might be possible when it comes to creation?
Yeah, so funny. After this, at about 2:30 after this, I'm going to go and do a live stream on this exact myth. So I'm like, spoiler alert for the folks who are in my community. The myth is really this idea that we need to be creating new content all the time. You know, it's like we gotta, you know, yes, repurposing is something we certainly, you know, you'll hear if you're around enough marketers, enough content marketers, you'll hear them talk about repurposing. And it's like, oh, let's take this live video and turn it into a bunch of different things. So it's not like we don't talk about reusing content, but underneath it all, there's this little myth that's kind of masquerading as the truth that, like, we are only valuable, or our community is only going to pay attention when it's like 90% new. So you'll see a lot of marketers share, and no shade and no shame. It's like, in my view, if you're showing up every day for your people, like, you're doing something right. Like, you know, there are just ways that we can start to think about how to be more efficient and more effective as we grow. So, you know, no shame and no shade, but there are a lot of content marketers who will sell, you know, 365 ideas to post on in your Facebook group, or like, you know, 365 ideas to, you know, mail your mailing list or something like that, right? And there's this idea we've got to come up with like all these brand new angles, and folks will run themselves ragged trying to come up with all these ideas and all these things that we need to be creating. And the truth is that it actually is a smaller set of very specific messages that need to show up on repeat in order to communicate the core perspective shifts, those core, you know, sort of new perspectives that your ideal clients need to receive. Like, those need to be isolated. We need to identify what they are, and then we need to put those babies on repeat, because it's not brand new stuff that folks need to hear every single day. It's just some very specific messages that they need to hear as many times as they need to hear them to get to the place where they again start to see their problem and the actions they've been taking to try and solve it in a brand new way.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like the message, what the myth then is that, or the myth said another way, is that if we aren't sharing brand new content every single day, our audience is going to get bored and they're going to disengage, or they're going to know that I reuse this or something like that, right? There's like some shame around, you know, saying the same thing twice. And the truth is, they're not going to notice. They're actually going to feel really served, because the idea is that sharing these messages over and over again gives our community an opportunity to receive them again. You know, when you hear that message one time, right? You know, it could be any field, right? But someone says something really profound, and the first time you hear it, you're sort of like, huh,
interesting.
Interesting. And the next time you hear it, you're like, yeah, tell me a little more. And then all the things conspire in the universe, you know, so that 2 weeks from now, 10 months from now, whatever it is, you receive that message and you're like, oh my gosh, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Yeah. I mean, for folks who are in the body mind community right now, I'm going to bet that there was an opportunity, there was a moment that you heard Laura or someone on Team Body Mind say something, and you know that they said it 65 million times, and you heard it like and the one day you just were in a different space, right? Our consciousness is evolving every single day, and you were just at a different space one morning, and you received that message, and you're like, today is the day, and you booked your call, right? Yes. So that's the same thing. And again, you know, PS secret, Laura already shared, like the concepts that we teach at Orisha are really embedded in the way that the body mind community creates content and shares messaging and everything else. So y'all are seeing this in action without necessarily knowing it, but it's there. It's the undercurrent, right?
I mean, there's so much to this. And I think one, from that body mind perspective, because, Orisha and body mind, love to hang out. Physiologically, it's comforting that somebody knows they can come to your page and there's consistency, that they're hearing the same message, and they're going to receive it in different ways depending on what's going on. And the familiarity and that like groundedness, it gives them a sense that like, oh, I really can trust you to show up in that way. And I think the hard part, I know from my end, is that I feel like I'm repeating myself. But the irony is that there are people who have been around me for years who have heard me say the same damn thing over and over again, that have rewatched my trainings multiple times. And for some reason, that day, that moment, the thing just lands differently. So it's almost like, and this is something that we see with a lot, like everybody who's listening to this, you're heart-centered, you care, you want to help people. And oftentimes we have this belief that, like Tamika was saying, like, it has to be hard. We have to carry it all. We have to come up with new stuff. We have to constantly be doing for it to be valuable. And the truth is, and also every single one of you reaches out to my team and you talk about how you want more ease. You want more spaciousness. You want to create a greater impact. And it actually starts by not doing more, but focusing in and really starting to see what your core messages are. And I've been so fortunate to work with you because Tamika helped me and my team early on say, what are our core messages? And you hear and we're constantly just saying similar things in a different way because we know just everybody's on their journey and when they get to hear that.
Yeah, right. And the thing that I also, want to speak to, and this is like a down the road piece that we noticed that once this has been in place for quite some time, we've kind of got the messages clear and they're kind of running. And there's a little bit of repurposing and automation that's done in a really loving way, but does create that ease that you're talking about. What we find is that having that sort of foundation rolling out, it allows the space for just true creativity and inspiration to also play in as well. Because I know that there are folks who are listening and it's like, ooh, I could never they already know that sort of feeling like they're saying the same thing on repeat. Even if they know that it's what their people need, I'm going to get bored. I'm not going to want to do that. Well, guess what? When you identify, and Laura, you totally fall into this camp too, but one of the cool things that we got to really play with was that once we had these core messages identified, they were rolling out. We knew that they were being received by the community. And we also, were able to say, yeah, Laura, you know what? If you're feeling like called this morning to talk about X, Y, and Z, go for it, because we don't have to worry that we're gonna that there's any chance of not having consistency. The consistency is already baked in. The foundation is already baked in. So what I want folks to hear is just that it's not that this is the only content that you'll ever create, and there's no fear that ooh, I'm going to get so bored of having to say the same thing over and over again. That's physically not possible. What we're doing is creating a nice, little cradle for our people to land in. But also, while that's taken care of, we have plenty of space to be able to show up and speak as inspired. We have got a baseline conversation going that's really supportive and soothing for your community, right?
And to loop back what you said at the beginning, this isn't just content that's here, give. This is content that is engaging, that is inviting them in to have clarity, to make choice, and to deepen the journey, ideally with you and your services.
Exactly.
So you have a really kick-ass thing that's happening next week.
We do.
And wanted to invite folks to. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. We do on Monday, February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, which is also my firstborn's 13th birthday. Can you believe I have a real ass teenager? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? Anyhow, I do. It's on Monday and it is at 2 p.m. Eastern. We are having our signature workshop, Kickstart Your Nurture Marketing Makeover. It is sharing 5 shifts to pre-sell coaching programs using our frameworks at Orisha Creative. Pre-sale coaching programs, again, without having to create new content all the darn time. So it's 2 p.m. Eastern on Monday. It is free $99, which is amazing, although there have been tons of whispers and discussions at Team Orisha about offering it as a paid workshop, because it is a real workshop. This isn't one of those, kind of show up and I'm going to share a bunch of things and you're still walking away with like, so what do I do next? You walk away with an actual plan to kickstart your nurture marketing makeover. So we walk through, as we're sharing the 5 shifts, we walk through some physical actions that you can start to take to start creating and identifying your core nurture themes and start creating this messaging that, again, is going to move your ideal clients along their buyer's journey in a really loving and supportive way that unhooks you from feeling like, I don't know what to say today, or did I say that already? Like we really share with you and break down kind of the strategy behind like why this is really supportive, how to start doing it. And PS, like I'm a marketer, so there is some marketing language there, but we have space for QA, and Jane and Sarah run the chat, so all your questions get answered. So it is a roll up your sleeves, and we're gonna like move forward. But we also recognize that, it's okay if you're a beginner. It's okay if you're not sure about some things. We're gonna support you to kind of get to implementing.
And again, I just from my perspective on being the receiving end of this, like it was so freeing for me to walk away and say, okay, here is this foundation. Here are my themes. And so whenever I was like, what do I want to say? What do I want to write? What do I want to do a video on? It was like, oh, hey, I know, like this one sounds like fun today. What's a story or an experience or something that I might want to play with along that theme today? So it actually it was so helpful for me to have that foundation. It took out how many of you are ever like, I have to send the email newsletter, and you're like, what the hell do I say?
What goes there? And the cursor of death is beeping at you, and you're like, oh, what do I put there?
This was a way for when I had this mapped out, when I was like, okay, I can see what my message is, what's going out, what those themes are. I was able to always say, okay, great. This lit me up to want to say something and to want to write something or want to create something. And then as I did that, I saw how, Tamika calls it her nurture matrix. I saw how these pieces got to serve and support each other. So I highly recommend Tamika all the time to all of our members. And I just know that this workshop is going to be filled with so much goodness. I did put the link to join. I put that in the chat box. So if anybody's interested, you can go check that out and join Tamika and her amazing team, because they are amazing. Anything else that you want to share? Just love notes.
I think one of the reasons why we have so much fun creating together, there's all the reasons, but I think really it's, I'm not an embodiment expert or coach or anything else, but I recognized really early on that connecting to the messages that your ideal clients need to receive is an embodied experience. Like I've been around the body mind community enough to know what that feels like, because you're not like, this isn't an intellectual process. You can hear that there is strategy and there's structure and all those pieces to it, but identifying what those messages are, connecting to what needs to be said, it comes from in here. Like it really is an embodied process. And I think, for anybody who has ever felt like traditional marketing doesn't resonate, come hang out with us for a little bit, because we're gonna talk the marketing talks, right? And beneath it all, I will share with you, sort of where that comes from, where the conversation that, you're having sort of heart to heart, soul to soul, with someone who you are so excited and lit up and, just here to serve in the world. There's lots of alignment there. And so, it's, my pleasure to kind of show up and share and talk today. And I hope to see lots of y'all on Monday's workshop. And yes, friends, there is a replay. And as Laura always says, if you create space to show up live, all the magic happens. I'm paraphrasing, but y'all know, Laura's
part of what you get to receive is making the space for yourself to show up, and that in itself is where things start to shift. And I just want to say, like, to this day, I think last week we had people reaching out who read an email that was created with Tamika and her team and from this nurture content. And they're just like, this totally spoke to me. And how can I join Body Mind Coaching? You know, like, this is something, this is the gift that gets to keep giving. This is something that like is just so magical and so amazing. And if you are somebody who loves to care and nurture and support and empower your clients, we get to bring that energy into the space of content, and it's just a game changer. So I so appreciate you. You're amazing.
I appreciate you. Thanks for that share. Snaps to the nurture matrix, always connecting with just the perfect folks who are ready for big transformation within your community as well. I love to hear that. Thank you.
I know. And next time we do a live, can we be on the beach hanging out together?
Please. Oh my goodness. Just the other day, my memories showed up with us in the Bahamas, the picture with our glasses. We got the giant oversized sunglasses. I would like to do that right now.
Yes. I'm there.
We'll make it happen. Maybe we'll bring some of y'all with us. Wouldn't that be fun?
Oh, now you're talking.
I love it.
Yes.
Yes.
You got my wheels spinning.
All right.
Yes. I'm just going to say yes to that right now, and we'll figure out how to make it happen later. Okay. Thank you, Tamika. I adore you so much.
My pleasure. Always, always. Much love, everyone.
All right. Go check her out. Go sign up for her workshop. It's going to be amazing. Bye, everybody.